I can turn into a fish. Chapter 25, 4 million. He Wei stood there, numb. For a moment, he didn't even answer Mr. Jin's request. All the applicants were stunned. Big brother Jin? Little brother? A drop of cold sweat appeared on He Wei's forehead. Chu Xian actually knew Mr. Jin? And they were actually on familiar terms. How was this possible? Chu Xian glanced at He Wei with some mockery, picked up the aquarium and followed Jin Hua and the younger man into an office. Little brother, quickly open the box. I want to see what goods are inside. As soon as they closed the door, with high expectations apparent on his face, Jin Hua gestured for him to open the box. Just judging by his reaction, Chu Xian could tell he was also a fish lover. He immediately opened the box. Big brother Jin, please take a look. 2 koi fish. What do you think? This. Jin Hua saw the beautiful koi fish and bent down excitedly. Lion Queen and Shishi Champion fish. The colors and patterns are even prettier than the Champion Lion Queen from a couple years ago. The young man stood by the side and peered over curiously, but after seeing the 2 koi, he shrugged and turned away, uninterested. Little bro, you're quite something, you're able to get even this quality of fish. These fish are in very limited supply. Jin Hua sighed as he examined the fish. Chu Xian smiled with his eyes half closed. It was very difficult for me to get these 2 fish. Jin Hua smiled, obviously not taking Chu Xian's word for it. He only needed 1 day to get the fish, it was near impossible if he had no connections. Little brother, at what price are you willing to sell them to me? Jin Hua asked, after taking some time to admire the fish. Big brother Jin, you be the judge. How much do you think they're worth? Chu Xian was silent for a bit, he didn't have much knowledge about these fish, and he also wasn't comfortable asking for too much, especially since he only spent several thousand RMB on the 2. How about this, 2 million each? What do you think? Jin Hua answered after a moment of thought. 4 million. Chu Xian's eyes shined with happiness, nodding. That's definitely no problem, and with the 100 or so goldfish together, how about 4,200,000? In exchange, big brother Jin can introduce some business to me. Haha, little brother is generous, shaving off 100,000 RMB for me. Jin Hua looked at him with appreciation. It's because I want big brother Jin to give me some more business. Chu Xian smiled shyly. Okay, I'll definitely to introduce some clients to you, but only if you have the goods. Jin Hua made this guarantee with a smile. Getting the goods is no trouble at all. Chu Xian smiled mysteriously. Jin Hua couldn't resist giving him a thumbs up. If you can obtain even these rare types, your connections must be really strong. Not at all, not at all. I just have a few friends overseas. Since little brother is giving me such a big discount, let's have dinner tonight. Let me introduce you, this kid is my son, Jin Sen, Jin Hua said while pointing at the 20-something young man. To his son, he said, this is the boss who sells ornamental fish. Big brother Jin, my name is Chu Xian, you can call me Xiao Xian. Chu Xian introduced himself immediately with great excitement. He was going to have dinner with a billionaire. This was something he wouldn't have even dared to imagine. Xiao Xian. Both of you are young men, you should talk when you're free. Jin Hua nodded. Hello. Chu Xian nodded politely to Jin Sen, who replied the same way, looking at him curiously. Xiao Sen, keep Xiao Xian company for a bit. I need to handle the interviews and then we'll have dinner together, Jin Hua said to them. Chu Xian nodded. He could see that Jin Hua wanted his son to befriend him. Chu Xian brother, you started your business empty-handed? After Jin Hua left, Jin Se couldn't but feed his curiosity. Yes. Chu Xian nodded and asked him in return, young Master Jin, You just graduated? Please don't call me young master, it sounds weird, you can just call me by my name. I went to school pretty early, so I'm starting my internship this year. Jin-sen smiled bitterly, saying, as in, right now, my dad dragged me here to his company to work. Chu Xian's mouth twitched at Jin-sen's helpless expression. Isn't that pretty great? Much better than being like me, having to fight my way up from the bottom. Jin-sen shook his head, but I have no freedom. I have to work every day and it's so boring. In a couple days, I also have to take over the new holiday resort for the company. Well. Chu Xian couldn't understand the thought process of this second-generation rich kid and was left speechless. To be honest, all I want is to get a yacht and party or play some poker. I want to go out to sea where I'll have no work to do. Why can't I just do that? Jin-sen shook his head, complaining. Jin-sen was a bit of a chatterbox, restlessly talking about himself and his fantasies. Chu Xian realized that this interesting young man in front of him lived in a world of his own. After talking some more, Chu Xian realized this daydreaming young man wasn't a simpleton. He knew quite a bit and had his own opinions, not just a useless second-generation rich kid after all. They chatted happily, talking about their future plans. All in all, the two of them got along pretty well. What are you chatting about so happily? After half an hour, Jinhua came in and saw the two chatting. We're talking about our plans for the future. Jin-sen smiled. Oh. Future plans? You never told me about your future plans. Jinhua said with the urge to laugh as he looked at his son. There isn't much for me to plan, I just have to work hard, prepare to take over your role and expand the company. Jin-sen shrugged, answering weakly. Haha, at least my son sees the big picture. Jinhua smiled. Let's go. I'll ask my accountant to wire the money to you and then we'll have dinner, it's getting late. And okay. Chu Xian nodded. Jinhua got someone to take the koi fish away, then Chu Xian got into Jinhua's Rolls-Royce and arrived at a small restaurant. When He Wei saw Chu Xian following Jinhua and Jin-sen, laughing and talking with them, he trembled. The fact that Chu Xian and his boss knew each other was like a hazy dream, and he couldn't imagine how a kid who'd been rejected by Gold Dragon Group could now talk and laugh with the CEO of the company. To think that he'd always mocked Chu Xian and thought of him as inferior. Who would have guessed that today, he'd have climbed this high? If he said any bad things about me in front of Mr. Jin, I'm going to be fired. Every time this thought crossed He Wei's mind, his heart beat faster in fear.